Welcome to another episode of Tutorials with Ike. So we are going to continue with the trial questions we've been solving, and we are now on number 6. So it's a question on risk and returns, and I'm going to read it. It says the following information relates to company A and B. Use the data to answer the questions that follow. And it gives us the state of the economy. So we have recession, slow growth, normal, and rapid growth. So these ones are various states of the economy that could occur. Then you have the probability. So the probability that is in recession is 0.2, the slow growth 0.3, the normal 0.4, and rapid growth 0.1. Then you have two returns or two companies. So for company A, for the recession, the probability of it being in recession is 0.2. Then we have negative 10% as the return, whereas company B is 15%. Then for the slow growth, we have 5% and 8% for A and B respectively. Then we have 15% for company A and 3% for company B, which is for the normal. And for the last one, which is the rapid growth, we have 25% for company A and 6% for company B, and the probability is 0.1. Then required, calculate the expected returns for company A and B, and calculate the variance and standard deviation for company A and B. All right. So when you're given a question like this, you are just supposed to. So we'll start with the expected returns. So the expected returns is going to be the probability times the returns. That's all. This time you don't divide it by the number. If they don't give you the probability, then you're going to add all the returns over the number of returns. So this one like this, the returns were 4, so that have been all the returns over 4. But once they give you the probability, you don't need to divide again. So for company A, you are just going to multiply the probability times the returns. So let's do it. So for the probability, the first one, so for company A, the returns are negative 10%. Then we have 5%. Then we have 15%. Then we have 25%. These are the returns for company A. Then the probability is 0.2. So 0.2. These are the probabilities. So the probabilities and the returns. So the probability is 0.2, 0.3, then 0.4, and 0.1. So this is the probability and these are the returns for company A. So we are going to multiply the probability by the returns plus this probability by the returns plus this probability by the returns plus this probability by the returns. So it's going to be 0.2 times negative 10% plus 0.3 times 5% plus 0.4 times 15% plus 0.1 times 25%. But remember the returns have been given to you in percentage. Anytime they give you the returns in percentage, you have to change it to decimal. So for the first one is going to be 0.2. Then times, so this 0.2 times this negative 10%. So you do negative 10% over 100. When you do that, you're getting negative 0.1. So that's for the first one, which is the recession. Then for the second one, it will be 0.3 times 5%, which is 0.3 times. So the 5%, you change it to decimals, then you get 0.05. 0.05. Then plus 0.4 times 15%. 15 to becomes 0.15. So 15 over 100. So plus 0.4 times 0.15 times 0.15. Then plus the last one, which is the rapid growth. So you have 0.1 times 25%, which is 0.25. So 0.1 times 0.25. So this is how you are going to do. So you punch all this on the calculator. But when you punch all of it on the calculator, you should be getting 0.08. So 0.08. Then when you get it, you multiply it by 100 so that you get the percentage. So you can 0.08 or 8%. So you can just write both of them. Yes. So that will be our expected return for company A. Now we move on to company B. So for company B, okay, let me clean the returns. Let me clean it. So for B, the returns, the first one is 15%. Then the second one is 8%. Then the third one is 3%. And the fourth one is 6. And the probability doesn't change. So the same for company B as well. So that one is going to be 0.2 times 15% plus 0.3 times 8% plus 0.4 times 3% and plus 0.1 times 6%. So let's do it. So that one, you also change the percentages to decimals. So it's going to be 0.2 times 15%. When you change the decimal, it will become 0.15. Then plus 0.3 times 8%. So 0.3 times the 8%, you change it to decimal, so 8 over 100, so 0.08. 0.08. Then plus 0.4 times 3%, so it becomes 0.03. So 0.4 times the 3%, so 0.03. Then plus the last one, which is 0.1 times 6%, into bracket 0.1 times 6%. So 6 over 100 will give you 0.06. Then punch all this on the calculator. When you do that, you are getting 0.072. 0.072 or 7.2%. So when you get the 0.072, you can just multiply it by 100, then you get a 7.2%. So we are done with the expected returns for company B. So this is the expected returns for company B. Now the next one says we should calculate the variance and standard deviation for company A and B. All right, so let's clean the board and solve for it. So the B says you should calculate for the variance and standard deviation for company A and B. And anytime they've given you the probability already, this is the formula you use for the variance. So the variance is equal to the summation of the probability times the return minus the expected return. So all this squared. You can also close it, so you can make this one big. Yes. So this is the formula I'm supposed to use. So the summation of P times the returns minus the expected return squared. So you find the returns minus the expected return, then you square it and multiply it by the P when you find the summations of both of them. So now let's start by finding the returns minus the expected return. The P is for probability. So we'll start with company A. Company A. So for company A, the returns minus the expected returns. So for company A, what's the return? So the first one was negative 10%, which is the same as negative 0.1. Negative 0.1. Then the second one was 5%, which is the same as 0.05. Then the third one was 15%, which is the same as 0.15. Then the fourth one was 20%, which is the same as 0.25. So you subtract all this minus the expected returns, which we solved for in I already. So when we solve for the expected returns, we got 0.08. So 0.08, 0.08, 0.08. So the expected return or the average return is the same for all the years. Expected returns. For the first one, when you point on the calculator, negative 0.1 minus 0.08, you get negative 0.18. Then for the next one, which is the slow growth, 0.05 minus 0.08, you should get negative 0.03. Then for the third one, 0.15 minus 0.08, you should get 0.07. Then for the fourth one, 0.25 minus 0.08, you should be getting 0.17. So now we found our return minus the expected return, but we need to square it because the formula says squared. So now we square everything here. So we are going to find for return minus the expected return squared. So everything here, we just square it. So when you square negative 0.18, you are supposed to get 0.0324. So 0.0324. Then when you punch negative 0.03 squared on the calculator, you should be getting 0.0009. Yes. Then when you punch 0.07 squared on the calculator, you should be getting 0.0049. Then for the last one, when you punch 0.17 squared on the calculator, you should be getting 0.0289. So now we found the returns minus the expected return squared, which is what you got here. Then we squared everything. But the formula says you should multiply it by the p, which is the probability. So you have to multiply all this by the probability in the question. So let me just put the probability there, so that will be easier. So the probability for the first one was 0.2, and the next one 0.3, and the next one 0.4, and this one 0.1. So this one was already stated in the question. So the final thing we'll do is to multiply the squared values times the probability. So when we multiply 0.0324 times 0.2, we should be getting 0.00. So let me do it. Return minus expected return square times p. So when we multiply 0.0324 times 0.2, we should be getting 0.00648. Then when we multiply 0.0009 times 0.3, we should be getting 0.00027. Then when we multiply 0.0049 times 0.4, we should be getting 0.00196. Then lastly, when we multiply 0.0289 times 0.1, we should be getting 0.00289. So you just multiply this by this and you do it on the calculator, then you get the answers. So now we found our p times the returns minus the expected return squared. So the formula says the summation of it. So we just add all these values. So 0.00648, then 0.00027, then 0.00196, then 0.00289. So we add all of them. And when we add it, you are supposed to get 0.0116 when we add all of this. So that's the summation of it. So that is our variance. And to get the standard deviation, you know the standard deviation is always the roots or the square root of the variance. So the square root, so the standard deviation is equal to the square root of 0.0116. When you do that, you are supposed to be getting 0.1077. And the standard deviation is always measured in percentage. So you multiply it by 100 and she gets 10.77%. So that's our standard deviation for company A. So now we use the same method for the company B. So let's solve for the company B and see what we get. So for company B, so let's clean the values because they are different. The only thing that will be the same is the probability. So let's clean the values. So for the probability will be the same, so you don't need to clean it. So for the company B, the returns. So for the first one, we have 15%. So 15%. Then the next one, we have 8%. 8%. Then the third one, we have 3%. And the fourth one, we have 6%. Then minus, this is the return, so minus the expected returns. When we solve for the expected returns, we got 0.072. So 0.072, 0.072, 0.072, and 0.072. So when you punch all of this, so the 15%, when you are solving, is going to be 0.15, then the 8% 0.08, and 3% 0.03, the 6% 0.06. So you just punch it on the calculator. So you don't do 15 minus. When you do 15, it's wrong because there's percentage attached to it. So you do it 0.15 minus 0.072. And when you solve it, you should be getting 0.078. So when you punch on the calculator, this is what you're supposed to be getting. And for the 8%, it's going to be 0.08 minus 0.0072. And you should be getting 0.008. Yes. And for the 3%, it will be 0.03 minus 0.072. And you should be getting negative 0.042. Then for the last one, which is 6%, so it will be 0.06 minus 0.072. You should be getting negative 0.012. Yes. So if the percentage will confuse you, you can just change like how we did it the first one. You just change all to decimals. So divide all this by 100 and use it. Here will be 0.15, 0.08, 0.03, and 0.06. Yes. So now I'm going to square all these values. So when we square 0.078, we should be getting 0.006084. 0.006084, yes. So when we square 0.078, then when we square the next one, which is 0.008, so 0.008 squared, we should be getting 0.000064. Yeah, 0.000064. Then when we square the next one, which is negative 0.042, we should be getting 0.001764. And for the last one, when we squared negative 0.012, we should be getting 0.000144. Yeah, 0.000144. Yeah, so these are the values you are getting when you square these ones. And now, the last thing we do is to multiply the squared values by the probability. So the probability is the same. So you multiply 0.006084 by 0.2. And when we do that, we are getting 0.0012168. Then we multiply 0.000064 times 0.3. And when we do that, you are getting 0.000192. Then for this one, we multiply the 0.001764 times 0.4. And when we do that, we are getting 0.007056. Then for the last one, when we multiply 0.000144 times 0.1, we should be getting 0.000144. Yes. So those are the values for the returns minus the expected return squared times the probability, which is the one here. And the formula is the summation. So we just add all these values. So 0.0012168 plus 0.000192 plus 0.007056 plus 0.000144. So when you add all of them, you should be getting 0.001956. So that becomes our variance. So our variance is the 0.001956 for company B. And the standard deviation is the root of the variance. The standard deviation will be, let me write it up here so that you see. The standard deviation will be the roots of the variance, which is 0.001956. When you punch this on the calculator, you should be getting 0.0442 or 4.42%. So you multiply this by 100. The standard deviation is always in percentage. So yes, so that's all. So that's how you find for the variance with the standard deviation. So for the variance, you use this formula. Then whatever value you get, you find the square root of it to find the standard deviation. Yeah, so that's all for question 6. The next video, I'm going to look at question 7. So see you in the next video.